Geology, geology, geology. Welcome everybody to another program of the Mini Geology radio show. This is Daniel Minizini, your inquisitive geologist. I would like to start with a quote from somebody whose name is Caroline Coward, who left a post on the Mini Geology interview of the AAPG president we made last week. And she writes, diversity is intentional, inclusion is intentional, equity is intentional. You have to make it happen. So today, a discussion around the underrepresentation of women in geosciences. We'll talk about why this is a problem and how should the problem be fixed. We have an extraordinary panel today. This is the very first time I host so many guests. Today we have three associations that they help increase the gender equality and diversity. We have the Association of Women Geoscientists, and we have the president, Lisa Tranel, and the president-elect, Noelia Carmona. Then we have the Sociedad Geológica Española, the Geological Society of Spain, and we have Ana Ruiz Constán. Then we have Geolatinas, Diana from Argentina, Diana Elizabeth Hernandez, Lorena Moscardelli from Norway, Gabriela Gonzalez from Canada, Clairet Guerra from Germany, and Catalina Llano in Houston, my neighbor. So first, a disclosure. As you see, I'm a white male immigrant from Italy, born in Spain, so Latino according to the 2020 census. And in my interviews in Mini Geology, I had 20% women. First question, what does it mean underrepresentation? Why under? This is a representation below what?
The Association for Women Geoscientists began about 43 years ago because women saw that there were not as many women, or there were not as many people that looked like them in their workplaces. But I don't think that 50% can be equal, because then we're looking at, say, maybe you've got 50% men and 50% women, but we all look white. That's still not equal.
Been in classes as an undergrad student where women were actually more, but I don't think this is mainly about numbers. So, for example, you could have equal numerical representation. We may even be given positions of leadership or power, but it's still not getting equal recognition when we're talking about awards. I don't think that all our geoscience organizations are pushing the numbers towards an actual real equal recognition. And also, to be evaluated as an equal, you would need to have equity of opportunities, and that as women living in the society we still don't have. And all associations should try to fight the problem within and try to help women to achieve that equity of opportunity.
I would like to remark the paradox that she has also mentioned, that although during university studies and the first professional stages, parity has been surpassed, really, here in Spain at least. The percentage of female geologists markedly decreased in scientific decision positions. Many women are lost in the different professional stage due to the existence of various social and cultural factors that discourage women. In Spain, the percentage of the professorship of, I don't know how to say, the higher post in the disciplines of natural science reached around 18% for women. And this could be observed in the main geological institutions of the country. For example, the Geological Survey of Spain, with almost 170 years of history, has only been led once by a woman, and was during the period of the 2010 and 2012. In the Geological Society of Spain was found in 1985, and only three of its 12 presidents have been women. its governing board is equal, but the scientific committees of the magazines it published are not yet equal. So, and the unemployment rate of female geologists is double that of male geologists. These are data from the official College of Geologists here in Spain. So it goes through all the universities, companies, or research centers.
The problem is the underrepresentation of women in the workforce and the universities as a student. In a nutshell, how would you define that, and do you agree or disagree?
I agree with that, but I think that the main problem is that privilege are not visible. Our privilege are invisible, and there are many people that don't see that this is a problem. This is something that usually occurs when you say that you are involved in organization as women and geology, and you dedicate part of your time to gender issues. Some colleagues say that they have the feeling that you waste your time because women have already achieved practically everything. We study at university, we do PhD theses, we work in the better companies, and we publish in impact journals. For them, equality already exists. They don't see the privilege. And the big problem is that if we don't know if it is a problem, we can't find what is the solution.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Anna that we tend to concentrate, and then the rest of the comments on numbers, but I think visibility is a big issue. Because then you establish these stereotypes of what a professor looks like, what a CEO looks like, what a high-level manager looks like or not. In the context of professional associations, I think it has a lot to do with recognition within the association. For instance, awards. When you look at the statistics, most our male colleagues, is really low the percentage of people who get technical recognition for their work. Most of these processes work by nomination. This is telling you is that women are not being nominated by their peers to be considered for these awards. And the same is true in industry or in academia.
Anybody else?
I can add something to that. Sometimes it's a matter of empathy from the people that stay in privileged positions. So I've seen strong roles of females throughout my entire life, but that does not make me completely an alien to the context to my fellow women in geo friends and colleagues. This means that me, as with my little power, I want to make sure that I create like a set of opportunities to pave the way for my fellow colleagues to thrive as I did in my career. So mainly what I see as the main limitation, and in my short years of experience in the professional geoscience world, is how people in powerful positions lack this empathy factor to basically create opportunities for the people that are coming through the way. So some women have accomplished too many things, and a guy in a power position might say, but you have accomplished it all. But have you stopped for a second to observe that we have to do triple the effort to accomplish the same thing that you've done? So there is a lack of empathy and respect for what women have to endure to accomplish a sort of recognition.
What is equality and why we're underrepresented? So equality basically it's ensuring that everybody have the same opportunity to reach a target, to make livelihood of our profession. So it's not only the numbers. We could have equality at entry positions. For instance, here in Canada, there is a 50-50 percentage of women in most organizations, but women are not reaching the high positions because there is a problem to reach those top level management positions, let's say. So I think that it's important to literate ourselves, to actually look back at the numbers. For instance, the United Nations are making a great job on publishing different reports. One of them I had the opportunity to read. It's about the World's Women Report in the 2015, where they state that women in geoscience are just, represent 30% of the population. So why is that?
In Geosciences, women make 20% of faculty members, according to a study of the AGI Wilson 2018. The International Renewable Energy Agency says that 22% of the workforce in oil and gas are women, only 4% in the offshore oil and gas, 32% in renewables. All these numbers are global. My friend Stefano Mazzoni, here also from Houston, he provided some data analyzing documentation of the AAPG in the annual reports until 2017. I talk about AAPG because it's one of the largest associations of geology, and some of you are members. So up to that year, 18-20% are the female members. The cumulative percentage of female members in the executive committee since 1917 is 6%. The first woman in the executive committee was in 1987. I think Martha Lou Brossard was the first one, which we uploaded last Thursday, an interview of her. Since that year, 1987, women present fluctuated from 0 to 30%, averaging 15%. The first female president was in 2001, next 2014, the third in 2018. Why underrepresentation shown by these data? Why underrepresentation of women in the workforce, in students, is a problem?
Why is it important to have female representation in professional associations? I think that's a universal answer. Women are very important in all fields of life. Not only in the geosciences, but also in other areas of technology and humanities. And I think the data shows that when you have an active workforce, a successful workforce that is properly represented with females, economies do better, countries do better, families do better. I think it goes back to the visibility component, because it's the only way nowadays to break into these outdated paradigms that women are not up to the job. I would go a little bit farther. I don't think these are only the old views. I think it's not only something linked to baby boomers, for instance. I think Generation X and millennials also engage in some behaviors that are detrimental to the development of female talent.
What should be the right percentage of women that I should have in my list of interviews?
I don't think you can quantify that with a number, and you're hitting in a very important aspect, because I think a lot of these numbers, fit in a piece of paper or an Excel spreadsheet, and they don't tell the entire story. It's not about the percentage of people, it's about the exercise of saying around your environment, the people that you have known over the years, what's the mental exercise that you need to make to see, who is missing from having the opportunity to use your platform to be seen. And we're talking about you because I am picking on you in this case, but
how would you feel if I had 1% of women or 99% of women?
That's what I'm saying. I don't look at numbers that way anymore, because a number doesn't mean much. See, if you're telling me that 20% of academics in the US are female, and 100% of that 20% are assistant professors, then what's the meaning of that 20%?
Right. I guess I agree with you that this is not, it's not about numbers. The challenge is that we see certain numbers, but what is kind of, I guess, underlying is the ideas of these implicit biases. And like Lorena said, we all do it. People have done studies where they sent resumes that are the exact same resume, but they changed the name to be a male or female name, and that makes a difference. The people, it doesn't matter if they send that resume to a man or a woman, both men and women will select the man over the woman, or they will give the man higher pay than they would give the woman. And it's this bias that when you see this name, it's this underlying bias that we have to be aware that we all have. And it's something that's developed over time in our culture because of what we see portrayed around us. It's not something that's necessarily intentional. But we do have to be intentional if we want to try to do something to make it, to stop being biased in that way. Another study of just CEOs in different companies showed that not only were most CEOs white men, but they also were like above average in height. So there is a certain image that we may have that somebody who is tall and is somebody who is powerful, is somebody who can lead an organization. And we have to recognize that we have these underlying biases. And when we look at resumes or we look at nominations for who we want to elect, we have to say, am I selecting this person because this person fits this expectation that has developed over my lifetime? Or are we saying, I really am looking at this person as this individual and considering the fact that I have this underlying bias that might make me want to choose, in our discussion today, makes people want to choose the man over the woman and say, wait a minute, let me think about this. And am I really choosing this person because of this, what they're qualified for doing? Or am I choosing this person because I feel more comfortable because they look more like me? And so it's not, in terms of the numbers and in terms of percentages, but that we need to think about is, what are the images that we portray? How do we present the numbers and the information? And are we demonstrating by example and putting those examples out there to help people change those biases that have kind of become ingrained in our culture?
Why is underrepresentation of women in the workforce and in the universities, why is this a problem?
Well, I think that numbers are important. Yes, because they give you a picture of what is the situation, but numbers do not imply that there are real change. Diversity needs to reach positions of responsibility because, as an example, participating in a party is not the same as being part of the organizing committee of the party. It is easy to understand that if you, as a person, you are invited to a party, you are grateful. And this is an important thing here. You are grateful as individual that you have been invited and you participate more or less actively. It depends in the dynamics that the organizers have designed. But you play the rules of their game in order to stay there, to remain there. But if you are the organizer of the party, you decide what is going to be done in it, who will participate also. So if women and minorities, not as individuals, but as a collective, are not represented in the organizing committees, we will not be able to change the rules of the game. That is the problem, and make the system more inclusive, richer, and respectful of all us.
Sorry, I just wanted to add some points on what Lisa was talking about. Some studies show that when people in a committee recognize women might face some barriers, they are more able to put aside their own biases. So I think this is important that we recognize our own biases just to, start thinking how we can change things. We need diversity, so numbers are also important. And I think that achieving that point where we are more equal in numbers, I think we are going to have more diversity in opinions, in thinking, in solutions.
Why there is misrepresentation in academia, in professorship positions. There are different research that show that it's basically because when there are applications or when women can take these positions, it's on average during their 30s, right? And at that point, they have to choose whether they want to commit to a professorship or they want to form families. And that is something that I believe Noelia was talking about. So there is not actually a support for women to have a life balance, like professional career and life balance, in order for them to develop and pursue that career.
In another study, they say that 34% of women, they get a bachelor degree in geoscience versus 47% in other sciences. What does it mean? Why we have less women studying geosciences rather than sciences at large? Is it cultural? Women, they don't like geoscience?
Geosciences have traditionally been taken, at least in the Latin American context, as something that a man would rather do. I'm a civil engineer by background, and the comments I received during my career were, are you going to go in the field like all alone? Is it safe? Is it this? Are you sure? And constantly having to some extent, prove myself that I was able to accomplish that. And these are comments that are happening from early ages in your childhood all the way to your professional career start. Now, what this does is, at an emotional level, it basically plays with your confidence. And you will unconsciously feel safer to pursue a different type of career that fits better that close context that you have. This might not have been my personal case. I chose what I felt was correct, but this is not the reality for other women my age, and also in the age of choosing something so important as a career or as a, an academic degree.
Yes, I would like to add in the same line that geology lacks more than other science, perhaps lacks female reference, and women face an absence of mirrors in which to look at themselves. This feeling of invisibility, together with the permanence of stereotypes, increases our doubts as professional and favors a feeling of undervaluation that has been called the Impostor Syndrome. My decision to study geology was made from male roles, male models, because they were the ones I knew. Now I do have many female references, and I am aware that the path that I have followed has been opened by other women, but that I admire and I value. However, the scarcity of female role models prevents many women from developing their own identity as geology professionals.
I think that everyone has already kind of hit on this. It's that example of the role models, the kind of expectations. I heard somebody talk about, all geologists have to do field camp, and talking about how at field camp, it kind of has this like Indiana Jones feeling, like every man out there wants to be like Indiana Jones. And so it kind of has this maybe kind of idea, or people might have this idea that you have to be very rugged, you have to be outdoorsy because you're doing geology. And in reality, geology is a lot of work in a lot of different types of environments. Geoscientists work in a lab, we work at computers, we're doing a lot of things. And I think that perception of, kind of this, that perception of what, one limited part of the geoscience field kind of maybe intimidates people, that they don't see themselves as that type of person, but really, we are all types of people, and that what is portrayed is definitely how people decide what they want to do and where they fit.
Yes, sure, absolutely. I mean, as Anna and Lisa said, we need strong role models to show that women in geoscience are diverse, that we can do many different tasks.
I completely agree that we need more role models, but I strongly believe that we should start at the very beginning. We should start with kids, not only with girls, but also with boys. We should start thinking more about outreach programs, for example, or how can we add some information to programs in primary school, in secondary school, to make them feel that earth sciences are important. And I think in that way, we are going to expect to have more women students in our universities finishing their studies.
And should people be evaluated on merit or on their identity?
I think people should be evaluated on merit, but when you have the same merit, you have to take in account also identity. I say, for example, many organizations apply positive discrimination in their conference or congress to non-English speaking scientists or young scientists. However, this quota sound offensive if they are posed as gender representation. However, the effects of quotas, which originally should be positive, must be analyzed and corrected if necessary. It's not something like put a quota and forget. I give you an example. Here in Spain, by law, the jury that must evaluate who receives a research position must be parity-based between 60 and 40 of each gender. However, there are around 20–30% of female researchers at present. So women have to dedicate more of their research time to participate in juries than men. To this, we must add that 70% of the positions of presidents of these juries are assigned to men, while 70% of the position of secretaries are assigned to women. This is a data. How important is this? The burden of bureaucracy falls mainly on women who are already overburdened with a great number of juries, and this fact hinders their research activity. So quotas are important, but not a quota without thinking and evaluating and doing an analysis of this quota.
Thank you, Anna.
Meritocracy really only works when you have equity of opportunity. So I am for a more holistic evaluation.
So you mean that you need a mix of merit and identity? I think that I translate your thoughts like women and other minorities, they often face systemic challenges at various points through their life. So the merit-only method of assessment can put women and minorities at an automatic disadvantage.
Exactly. I think all associations, representative and collective, have a strong responsibility to evaluate, to pursue holistic evaluations in general. I think diversity in all levels and all kinds should be celebrated.
I understand that you mentioned several times, most of you, that there is kind of a lack of recognition of the intrinsic value of the experience and the opinions of women geoscientists. Why there is a lack of recognition?
I want to, because this is important, because it's a point of that backlashes on us a lot, Daniel, and that's why I sometimes try to be clear, at least on what I think. There are two things here. When we're talking about the capacity that we have as geoscientists or scientists in general, in any field, to bring something into the field, that's very tangible and that's very concrete. Yeah, in terms of technical capacities and contributions to your field of knowledge. Okay, that's one component of it. Now, what you're talking about is about bringing different perspectives, life experiences into a community, you know, to try to approach problems, or to try to see situations, or to try to be innovative and create. And that's not only related, you know, to us as females, but also in the broader range of diversity. So the reason why I make that differentiation is because I hear so many times, and actually people who are actually not well educated on these aspects of diversity bring these arguments so many times into the table that is tiring, you know. Oh yeah, you know, we need to have the woman in the team because we need to bring the new perspective. But then what that does is it erases your backbone in what you bring with knowledge, expertise, and also vision. And it puts a tag on your forefront. That doesn't happen to guys. So that experience is not a common experience for most guys, unless they are also part of a minority. But I think it's important to make the differentiation, especially now, 2020. You know, there are plenty of us who bring in intrinsic technical value with our bag of knowledge and expertise, and we don't need any other excuse than that to be part of a team or an organization or a university. You know, if things would be fair, the rest would be secondary. Now, of course, your life experiences, your background also brings into the table, but it should be as valid for me as a Venezuelan woman as for you as an Italian man. You bring your own stuff, I bring
So
mine.
you're highlighting the merit.
I'm highlighting both. What I don't like is when we're assigning these quotas only on one aspect of who I am. I'm a whole. Anna wants to say something there? Yeah?
Yes, I would like to say that I think we should surpass the time when women in geology and in society, but here in geology, were a singularity, an anomaly of the system, the women of the team.
Exactly.
Today, the presence of women is plural, but many times we carry on our shoulders the weight of representing all women. We have not reached the ideal situation, the time when we will represent only ourselves. Working groups like Women in Geology or Geolatinas are necessary, are fundamental to imprint our personality and our idiosyncrasy as a group in the future geology, but we are individuals. I think we have to differentiate that, because if not, we reduce it to have the women of the team.
I want to add something on that matter, especially on the value that women bring into the team, and why it's important to have female in a team, whatever the discipline is. And there is like a nature, a female nature and a male nature. I mean, we're different in essence. And if I may speak from a personal perspective, I work with a group that are all men, and these are senior guys plus 45 to 65. And I'm there in the middle. And I've been referred to several times by other colleagues saying, she's the binding element of that team. She's the glue of that team. She's what keeps that team together. And I take it as all positive. The reason for this is that I am a whole in there, as Lorena says. I am putting my technical expertise, but I'm also bringing the conciliation energy. So when they are going to start, you know, the technical fights, I jump in the middle and I'm saying, okay, mediation, negotiation, conciliation. Let's try this, let's try that. These are things that when you have a whole of a single element, so a whole male team, even a whole female team, that this can be complex. So if you have a balanced team, you might have this balance of energy as well. I think that is one of the greatest values of having balanced teams.
The most important value that we input to our team is knowledge. My main contribution is knowledge, is what I know about the instrument. And I want to work equally with my team. I want to have the same opportunities. I want meritocracy. I mean, I want that. I don't want to be considered because of my look or because I'm from Venezuela or because I'm a woman. No, I want to be valued and acknowledged because I'm a geoscientist, because I'm proficient on my work and I work really hard to complete it.
Gabriela, and the other thing that I would add to that is that we need to recognize that each person is different. So there are other individuals, there are guys that are the glue of the team. You know, they're very, good at communication and they do an excellent job at that. So the risk that I see on these labels is that then because I'm a woman and I'm expected to be the person who will bring peace to the team. From the conversations that, or the examples that have been shared already, I think that it sounds like the women in this room right now have had very positive experiences with being listened to when they are in that group with men working. And so I think that the value, as they've said, come from the different experiences that we all have. The challenge might be listening to the woman in the room. And I think that in many cases, hopefully, and I'm optimistic that I think that women are being listened to, but I still do know that there are some times like where a woman will go into a meeting, and even if there are, a balance of women to men, say a room of 10 people, 4 women, 6 men, sometimes what the woman says is not taken seriously until a man says it too. And so it's, we're all in the room, we're all coming up with different ideas, but that awareness that because it's coming from somebody who is from an underrepresented group, what we are dealing with or what our challenge is to be heard as ourselves and not to be heard from some other man who heard us say it and then says it again, and then it gets the recognition and the credit. So I guess I feel like that's part of this challenge, and part of what we need for the awareness is that, and like I said, I'm optimistic, and it sounds like we've had some good experiences that, that we are being heard, and that's good. And we need to continue to be heard, and we need to be aware of the fact that, are we listening to the other? Are we as women listening to the other women too?
How do you use your organization to promote this way of thinking?
All right. So the Association for Women Geoscientists has done many things. Many of the big things that we've done, we've got scholarships and awards to recognize. We've got scholarships for young women doing their research. We have awards recognizing professional excellence for women, because all those things we've talked about. If you get promoted, if you are chosen for different things, you need recognition along the way. We have a distinguished lecturer series so that we can have an example of the women who are doing these things. We've done workshops at conferences to try to educate and inform people about biases, microaggressions, career, just, showing women what their career opportunities are. And then we do outreach and education programs. We have chapters connecting people across the country, around the world. We have international chapters that, we're trying to create a community of support for each other and recognition. Noelia, I'll let you add some points to it.
What resources should be provided to the general geological associations to allow their members to change their mindset?
First of all, I think training. This is the most important thing.
Which kind of training?
Training in those kind of implicit biases, just to recognize that we all have these biases within us. And especially if you have people in leading positions, they have to be aware that they can be having those kind of things, for example, in committees or in evaluations. So I think that training is one of the most important things that we should provide our institutions.
Who are, I'm talking again with the Association for Women Geoscientists, who are your allies that they are denouncing this underrepresentation of women in geology?
I think, I think that it's all of our members, you know, in one sense, it's all of our members going out and talking to other members and creating a network and trying to build our community. You know, we partner with many organizations. So, I mean, even from the beginning of AWG's history, we've been doing workshops at the Geological Society of America annual meetings. We have collaborated and worked with the American Institute of Professional Geologists. We've worked with AGU, the American Geophysical Union. So you know, for the Association for Women Geoscientists, every member is a member of another organization, and we are working together to also work with other organizations.
Ana, you represent the Geological Society of Spain, Sociedad Geológica de España. I would like to ask you the similar questions. Well, what does your organization do in order to promote a new way of thinking?
Well, in the beginning, when the Women Geology Commission started, the main aim was to make a series of tributes or recognition to the pioneer and the veteran female geologists in Spain, to better known a part of the history that it was not recognized, and we used this initiative to compile biographies and to know better the situation, the initial situation. After that, we make a lot of activities, mainly related with outreach. We celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science with many local activities, but we perform a common event with other geological organizations of Spain, the Geological Society, but the Geological Survey, many universities, so to have a place to discuss, to share ideas, and to put in common the reflection of people working in different places, also companies. We have a new outreach initiative that is called Geocharlas, that it is a network of earth science speakers that perform completely free talks and other activities for a wide non-specialized audience, to put the focus on education at primary and secondary schools, cultural associations. This network is constituted by more than 60% of female geologists, so it's a way to have a reference to girls at the secondary school when they are deciding what to study. We also promote the access of female geologists to awards, and we search for the different calls and propose female profiles that get with these recognitions. And we have established collaborative relationships with many other entities, like the National Museum of Natural Science. They have a program. It is called Ask the Expert. So we provide female geologists to talk about diverse subjects and give visibility to the work that they are doing, or other associations that represent minorities here also in Spain.
And Geolatinas, what does Geolatinas do to promote a new way of thinking?
Okay, so Geolatinas is a member-driven association that it's mainly focused in generating or creating a good environment for two key things. One is the sense of community, and the second is visibility. So this is an association or an organization that was started from scratch online. So our members are across the world, and still yet we are able to feel and have a sense of community anytime we want as we log in our devices. So in a phone or in your computer, in your iPad, you have access to GeoLatinas. So in the sense of visibility, we celebrate from the smallest accomplishments to the biggest success of our members, of our different members. We have different types of features in the platforms. We have all kinds of social media. We have a workspace in Slack. So we are able to stay connected as a whole at all times. Also, we have different members across the world. That means different time zones and different people working in different initiatives at all times. So this sense of representation, of working together, of visibility, all this, I think, hits back in confidence. And for me, it's been a blessing to find the community of GeoLatinas myself.
What would you like to accomplish next for GeoLatinas?
Basically establish as an official association. So basically start receiving official funding. As I mentioned, we started all of this from scratch online. So all the initiatives are being structured. So design, the concept is established, the design is generated, is published and posted online by volunteer work. So contrary to the other associations, we're not getting paid to do this. This is all pure heart out there doing the work. So these are the things that will be the following steps for GeoLatinos: becoming an official association where we can, handle different types of funding to also foster different types of initiatives. For example, conferences, big meetings, to aim to the models of maybe not the biggest association, something that we can still handle as a team and that keeps us in the sense of community, but that also allows us to foster that kind of events, for example. That will be a great accomplishment for GeoLatinas.
You're going to have 1 or 2 minutes each to express all the other things that we haven't said, or the things that it could have been misrepresented in here that you think that we have to fix.
Gender bias exists in our societies, and we all need to be educated on the subject. We come from earth scientists. We are earth scientists. We are not social scientists. We need to respect the research done by social scientists, and this research clearly shows that gender issues were and are still a problem in our societies. We are all part of this patriarchy, this social system, and men and women continue to perpetuate this system, and it crosses all spheres of our life, including our field. And to deny that there is a gender bias in our field, I think would be the first thing we need to stop doing. We all need to be educated on it, and as individuals, we need to take an active stance on this subject, but especially all associations that represent a collective need to address that. They have a responsibility when it comes to any kind of bias. So education is not just up to each of us as individuals, but also as a collective. We need to recognize our bias, conscious and not conscious, subconscious, and try to take active participation in anything that has to do with gender bias. Not just women, but men also. When you take photographs in the field, you have to include women working in the field as examples. And that's just one tiny example of what we can do in our daily lives.
I wanted to thank you because during this meeting, although maybe we sometimes don't have exactly the same opinions about different things, I think this interview it's an opportunity for us to finally get these collaborative associations that we need. We need to collaborate more with each other. So I think it was great to have you all here. And finally, in our course, we decided this year that we are going to try to balance the references and the textbooks we are using to balance the gender there, because we have realized almost all our textbooks were written by men. So we are trying to incorporate more references and more textbooks written by women. These are very small things, but these are the things that at the end can change, the situation.
Well, I want to thank the opportunity to talk with all the partners of the different associations. It is a very good initiative, and I think I should do this more frequently. I think that through the history, women have had to raise the voices to question tax that was considered normal in their time. So now it's the same. In my opinion, this is an interesting and also delicate moment at the same time. It is interesting because we have a freedom that our predecessor did not have, and the major change and challenge have already been made, but the imbalance in access to positions of responsibility persists, and we must prevent it from becoming systemic. I think that is the challenge. There is still work to be done. It is time to carefully identify and neutralize the mechanisms that contribute to reproduce the traditional order and roles in order to have a fairer society. In the Women and Geology Commission of the Geological Society of Spain, we will focus our future lines of action mainly on education and outreach, but also in leadership development and ultimately in retention of talent, that it is also a very big problem.
I wanted to add into, I think that, earlier Anna had a good point about, including boys and including men in the conversations too, that it's important that in the education, the awareness that we include everyone in the education efforts, and that we kind of communicate that, we have to basically kind of exemplify and make a new normal for this. And I think that, as everybody said, that this is an opportunity for reaching out and doing more collaborations. And, maybe with COVID-19, and we're all getting into all these virtual presentations, that this is a great opportunity right now to be able to network and connect even more people, to have these discussions and to work on these outreach opportunities.
So my commitment to my community is to stay active and proactive, and I also think it's important not to give up spaces or hope, and remember that communities and associations are not about the structure; it's about the people. So there are many challenges that will continue to haunt us. I urge our communities, not only female geoscientists or male counterparts, to also keep an eye on the international arena, in the sense that, in North America and in Europe, we have the privilege of choices when it comes to programs and professional associations. You can pick whatever, EGU, GSA, APG, SCPM. You can create your own if you want. But especially in developing countries, access to this is not that straightforward. So there are very few organizations that have student chapters or early career chapters that actually provide opportunities to people in developing countries.
So this is a good example of different initiatives and physical, tangible examples of what we can do to bring change into this problematic. I would like to make it a habit that in our organizations we foster this type of conversations. I would like to also add on different initiatives that are available as part of the Geo Latinas community. And I would like to use on a regular basis, the GeoLatinas platform that has been established to maybe use it as an amplifier of some of the problems that we are getting reports from. So as I mentioned, we have members all over the world, and we have a key initiative that's called Voice Your Needs, where we are able to scratch on different problems in complete anonymity. But we know that there is a specific problem that a person back in Venezuela is enduring that the person here in Germany might not be aware of, and use your position of privilege and advantage to assist a person in need, a female over there on that side of the world. I think that's something of big value. The other thing that that I would like to bring to the table is our PERLA workshops, which stands for Professional Exchange for Resilience, Leadership, and Advancement. These are specialized workshops that are available for the GeoLatinas community and at no cost. And this brings resources from all sorts of scientific writing to prepare yourself for interviews. These are things that not everybody have access to. And just by becoming part of the community, you already have this sort of resources. Another action point that I will add is use the platform that I have access to and that I am committed to, which is GeoLatinas, but any other platform should be used as an educational and as a construction point to bridge all these gaps that already exist. So not only focuses on us as a community, but preparing things like workshops and talks that help us educate the general audience. And by all means is commit myself to making this a habit and making this the new normal and bring this conversation to all of my reality on a daily basis.
I have to thank you, Daniel, because you are, and each and all of you, because I think that by doing this, we are taking actions. So you today give us the mini geology for, as a platform to foster this discussion that is so important for each of us and that influence us and our community. So I think that I started doing this 5 months ago when I joined GeoLatinas. They are doing a wonderful job by broadcasting all the experiences, right, that have women in geoscience. Things that probably I didn't know of because I was in my little niche, right? So I was able to basically get in touch with all these wonderful, very inspirational women, and then take their example and be myself an example for the community. And in fact, right now we have so many resources. I mean, we have to take advantage of this stage in time where, we can reach out a lot of people through social media, and we can express ourselves, we can exchange knowledge, we can inspire, the youth overall.
This is Daniel Minizini, your inquisitive geologist. This was another episode of Mini Geology that you can find in minigeology.com. Everybody can write me at minigeology@gmail.com to propose other topics or other people to interview. You can propose yourself as well. Another thing, I need to thank a lot of people, and especially women, that they write me directly after the last interview when we revamp this issue about the underrepresentation of women in geosciences. And especially people that they inspire my questions or that they directly ask. Some of the questions that I pose to you are Rebecca Simon and Rachel Haberneck and Lina Perez Angel. They are related with the University of Colorado Boulder. Also Megan Brown, assistant professor of Northern Illinois University, and many others. Also Rebecca Ponton, journalist of oil and gas. Stefano Mazzoni, as I said, they send me data and questions. So I'm really, really proud about this, because mini geology is you, is us. Another thing is that one of these persons, Lina, from Boulder, she is pushing us to action. So we need action. So what actions will you take after this discussion? What can you commit to today? I say from my part, I feel I need to answer to Lina, who wrote, quote unquote, in my own experience, the underrepresented are the ones taking actions to make changes, while the rest talk about it because it's the right thing to do, not because they actually care. So I think that after this interview, I'll personally fix the imbalance on the minorities that I discover I have in my interviews. As I said, I have 20% women, but I have only 1% of Black people, 1% of geologists with disabilities, and many with 0%. So I'll take care about this.